favorite equation in the learning and development world. B equals A. B equals A, what that stands for is break equals amnesia. Some people went on a coffee break and come back going, yeah, it's been a really good morning so far. I mostly can't remember anything that we talked about, but it's been outstanding. I've loved it so far. So here's what I would like to do. Step number 1, page 4 of your worksheet. Page 4, that's the big blank one, the ahas inside page. What are the 2 or 3 critical things that you want to capture from the first part of the morning so far? There may be more, but at least 2 or 3 things that you definitely want to capture. You know, we did our check-in questions, the high point and low point, and what's the crossroads you're at, there's some fun. Then we did the more serious check-in questions. How active, engaged do you want to be? How much risk do you want to take? How much do you care about the others? We talked about what's coaching and how you define your own version of coaching and why we do that. We got into the coaching cycle. Insight leads to action, leads to impact. The definition. Jumped to advice and action more slowly, stay curious a bit longer. The 3 Ps we did. Then the practice using that script. So we covered quite a lot in the first 75 minutes. But what do you want to remember from all of that? What matters to you? I know some of you are doing that meta viewing about what's Michael doing as a facilitator, how's the program structured. So for some of you, you might be capturing one of the key things you've noticed about how I'm running this. One of the things I worry about, and I worry about I'm going to be committed to is managing the energy of the group as you go through the day. So what you'll notice is I manage my energy by sometimes standing up, sometimes sitting down, because I'm creating texture in the way I show up. There's not the same person, the same tone of voice, the same volume in the same way every time, but because I show up differently during the day, that creates a different experience for you, which helps you stay more engaged. So my choice to sit down here is a very deliberate choice, as opposed to standing up and saying the same sort of stuff. Once you've written down the key things that you want to remember, it looks like we're close to that, maybe another 30 seconds on the key things from the first half. I'd love you to go to page 3 of your worksheets. This is the floor of these worksheets. There's a bit of paper shuffling that goes on. But if you look at the page 3, the top half of page 3, you'll see there's a piece that says actions and habits. Actions and habits. And honestly, this is trying to follow our own advice here. You remember the coaching cycle, insight leads to action, leads to impact, where you've captured the insights under the ahas page. Let's have a go at actually going, what do we want to turn into action? What do we want to do differently as a result of that? So there may be some actions that come to mind right away that you want to act on, which is great. But I do want to teach you about the habit formula. There's more about this in the coaching habit book. So this is a really quick teaching piece of this. What we care about is behavior change. The secret sauce to behavior change is understanding habits. If you understand how to build a habit successfully, you're much more likely to be able to change your behavior. There's a lot of mishmash of information out there about habits. You know, the most annoying for me is just do it for 21 days and it becomes a habit. And that's a lie. Somebody made that up and now it's just haunts the internet and won't die, right? So you need to be more deliberate, more thoughtful. It takes more time than that typically. We use the new habit formula, which you'll see showing up, and it's on the top of that page 3 there. When this happens instead of I will, so very quickly, when this happens, what you do here is you identify a situation, a circumstance. a very specific moment. The literature would call it the trigger. The trigger that sets off. Instead of, that's the old habit that you no longer want to behave, to act on. In this context, it's typically giving advice. Instead of telling them what to do, instead of rescuing them, instead of jumping in and fixing it for them, I will, and that's when you define a new habit that ideally takes 60 seconds or less to complete. The 60 seconds comes from a guy called B.J. Fogg. We're not going to get into that teaching piece, but this whole piece is basically, if you're going to define a new habit, define it in a way that takes a minute or less to complete, and it's much less likely that your big brain will find a way for you to avoid doing the habit. The brain loves the old habits. It's hard to build a new habit. 60 seconds or less, it's like you're defining the micro habit that gets a bigger habit potentially going. So in the context we're having, it could sound something like this. When Cheryl comes into my office, as she always does, and complains, and goes, oh, it's so hard, instead of me leaping in and going, I'm going to fix it for Cheryl, obviously, one of you two Cheryls, I'm not saying which one. So instead of me jumping in to fix it and say, let me take this on, I'll do this for you, why don't you do this? I will ask a question, maybe, what's the real challenge here for you? So I'm building a very clear, deliberate coaching habit to do this thing differently. Because what we want the participants to leave from here is 3 to 5 self-defined coaching habits, so they can actually put these insights into action and behave differently when they get back into the office. So here's what I'm going to ask you to do. Based on what you've covered so far, have a go at writing out a habit for me. Top right-hand corner of page 3. Think of somebody that you'd like to be more coach-like with. Think of a situation that pushes you out of being coach-like with them. And think about, what would I want to do differently? When I have my one-to-one meeting with blah blah, when I see blah blah in the corridor, when my boss calls me into her room and says blah blah, instead of, what's the specific behavior you default to that's less helpful, one that you're looking to shift? I will. Ask, what's the real challenge here for you? Ask, and what else? It's a bit tricky. This will get easier and easier as we go through the day. I'm pushing you hard on this now. Yes. Please ask for it.
Have you ever used these questions for a training needs assessment?
No, but let's pretend yes. Okay. No, these questions are just great questions in general. You know, my background in part is consulting, so I'm like, how do we figure out what's going on here? That's how do we go? What's the real challenge? So if you're doing a training needs assessment, you know, what's the real thing we're trying to solve, so that whatever I build solves the real problem. So what's the real challenge? What else? What's the real challenge? No, what's the real challenge? We'll quickly get you to go, here's the thing we've really got to fix.
I'm going to use what's the challenge. So typically when I do assessment, I don't necessarily ask what's the skill you're trying to work on. I want to understand what's the problem, what's the challenge.
Yeah. And you know, in the context of this program, when you go down a few layers, when we ask our clients this, the real challenge for many of them is, we've introduced coaching before and it hasn't stuck and it hasn't changed people's behavior, which is different from, we need to roll out a coaching program. It becomes a more subtle solution, challenge that we then get to provide a more subtle, useful solution to. Very nice. Let me tell you about this very first. This is printed on worksheet number 1. It's as close as we get to having a coaching model, but really it just says, look, there are 3 key coaching moments. We've covered them already. The blue card coaching, the green card coaching, the red card coaching. They don't go, it's not a linear experience. You don't go one, then the other, then the final one. Sometimes it can be like that, but not always. You really got to start in the middle with, how can I help? And once you know how to help, you choose, is blue card coaching the most useful? Is green card coaching? is regular coaching. After you've done that for a while, you go back into the middle and go, so now is it useful if I get clear on the real challenge with you? It is, so you go there, or you're looking to get out of this conversation as fast as possible, 10 minutes or less. And what we're going to be doing over the rest of the day is looking at these 3 coaching moments in detail, and then figuring out how they kind of fit together and how they flow. The way we finish the program today is you actually bringing together the 3 types of coaching moments and seeing how that works in a single conversation. And what we're going to do now is the blue card coach. So pull out your blue card, please. I love this one. I haven't taught it for a while, so I'm excited to be sharing it with you. And you'll want to have worksheet number 2. So you're kind of filling in the top half of worksheet number 2 for me, please. All right. So this is going to be like maybe 10, maybe 15 minutes of teaching. I'm going to kind of do a bit of a content piece with you, and then we're going to get into practicing, okay? But I want to set this up with giving you a good explanation of the content first. So getting clear, here's the quote that, there's quite a lot of words now after that, but I'll give you just a minute or 2 to read that, you'll get the point. But I think I've made this quote myself a few times, which is, we're so busy solving the first thing that shows up, we never get to solve the real thing that shows up. And this is what this is about. And what I notice with most coaches is if we're trying to get to the thing that matters, most coaches take this long, meandering path to get there. And you're like, I'm coaching. Oh my God, we'll be going for 45 minutes. When are we going to get to the point of this conversation? And what great coaches have is this ability to get to the heart of the challenge fast. That's the essence of this 10-minute coaching or not. And we've got to give you the tools to get more quickly into what the real challenge might be. But here's what's getting in the way. We call them, actually, let me show you this. This is your blue card coaching. So you'll see this printed on the first half, one half of your card, which is a very simple process, which is, first of all, you recognize the coaching moment and clarify, is this going to be useful if we help you get clear on the challenge? Secondly, we avoid the foggifiers. I'm going to tell you what the 7 foggifiers are in just a minute. And then finally, just check out, is this actually the challenge? Have we actually landed on the real challenge? So this is what we're going to dig into. So let me tell you about these 7 foggifiers. And you'll see them printed along the top of page 2 there. And what I'm going to suggest is, we'll talk about them, and it's a place for you to take notes if you'd like to do that. So the first 3 foggifiers, the first 3 of 7, is about helping you as the coach get out of the way. Because so often it's our good intentions actually stop us from being more effective coaches. So how do you step out of the way to allow this coaching to really flourish? So the very first coaching moment is what I would call an overdeveloped sense of responsibility. It's the superhero moment. As soon as they start talking, you're like, this is my job to help them, save them, solve them, rescue them. Be the person who jumps in and fixes them. So what you need to hear is a question that's going to slow down your rush to jump in and fix it and solve it. So any guesses what a good question might be to help slow down that rush to jump in? What's on your mind is an outstandingly good question. Here's a little more specific question that's there. How can I help? How can I help? And I think you'll see these. Here's my true confession. It's been 2 years since I last ran this program. And even though I studied it this morning, going, oh my God, how does this program actually work? I'm finding the parts where I'm slightly rusty. So here's what you see the process there on the blue card we talked about. And it's interesting that it's not actually on the, how can I help actually isn't on the card. Thank you. There we go, recognizing the moment. Why am I teaching this course? Somebody else needs to come up and teach this course. It's fine. So a bit of a sense of responsibility. I think the powerful one to ask is, how can I help? Because what we do most of this, and any of you who've taken the coaching habit program, the half-day program, will recognize this drama triangle and the like. So we tend to want to leap in. How can I help? It's a great way of slowing your rush to jump in and fix things if you think you know what the answer is. You don't know.
So I struggle with this one because, so in those circumstances,
Yeah.
I always jump in.
Yeah.
People who are coaching are used to you jumping in.
Yeah.
So don't you think sometimes I'm saying, how can I help you, I get the response? Absolutely, I want you to take this problem away and deal with it.
Yes, that may well be the response. Here's what you have to know. You don't have to agree to that. So that's the
Do you
critical.
think it's a leading question though?
Well, let me give you an alternative to this, which might be a way of being less leading. And in some ways it's more blunt and to the more points, and maybe even a little more honest. What do you want from me? Because now you go, so what do you want from me? Okay, I get what's going on. What do you want from me here? And now they go, well, I want you to. And you get a choice to kind of respond to that direct request. And here's what's cool about what you want from me. Sometimes they say, I don't want anything from you. I just needed to bitch and moan for 2 minutes to get this off my chest. And you go, fantastic. Get out of my life.
Yeah.
And thank you, because I was about to try to do all this stuff to try and fix it and solve it for you. But now they go, look, I just needed to get this off my chest. You know, that's great. Perfect. Yeah. I've got other stuff I have to do now. Right. So how can I help, or what do you want from me can be really powerful around that. Again, I agree with you that that question, if you're not absolutely grounded in understanding that you don't have to say yes to request some help. You have a choice to say, oh, I can't do that. Or I can't do that, but I could do this. Or, yeah, I can definitely do that for you. But often, actually, when you ask them, say, how can I help? They get what's going on. How can I help here? Sometimes they won't even know. So actually, you're forcing them to get clear on the request that's being made. Does that help at all?
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I like that. For me, I was that question all the time.
Yeah, what do you want from me? Yeah. And tone matters,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
You can see how that question, you're like, oh.
Take it out like that.
Yeah, exactly. What do you want from me? Exactly. Whereas, generally, I'm curious, out of all of that, what do you want from me here? Yeah, how can I help? Yeah.
I was going to say sometimes to get them thinking about it, I say, if you were in my shoes, what would you want me to do to support you?
Nice, yeah. So there's a nice way, sometimes just doing that pulls them out of the hurly-burly in the moment and sees it as some kind of other situation, so I think that's nice as well. Second fog of fire. Over development sense of responsibility, how can I help? Second responsibility, the temptation of the opening challenge. Often we've kind of felt that, right? With the practice we did before the coffee break, around how that first challenge feels so real and so there and so pluckable and so actable on. But you want to resist solving the opening challenge. So you should have a good guess for this question. What do you think it might be? And what else can be really fantastic? Anything else? Yeah, what's the real challenge here for you? The real challenge for me is, oh, there we go, it is actually, and what else? Yeah, perfect. It's going to be a different question, but that's great. And what else? We call it the best coaching question in the world. And it's a bit kind of nondescript for the best coaching question in the world. But when you realize, A, their first answer is almost never their only answer, rarely their best answer. And secondly, when you realize it's a self-management tool to stop your advice monster moving into the picture, help you tame the advice monster, can be really powerful. So, and what else really helpful there? This is the third of the foggifiers, avoiding the real issue. We kind of talked about this as well from the training before the coffee break. So often we trying to get into solving the first thing rather than being persistent in solving the real thing. So taking a guess, what do you think your question might be that could be helpful here? Is there one on the back of the card that sticks out for you? Is there some questions there that might help? Yeah. And for me, with this one in particular, this is like a variation of this. Is this really the big challenge here for you? You know that moment where you're sitting with them and you're talking to them and you're like, it feels like a good coaching conversation. But in my heart of hearts, we're talking about A, but really I'm pretty sure that the issue is B. And this is a perfectly adequate conversation about A, but really it's about B. And part of you's like, do I just stop this conversation and just say, look, what's that really doing here? Let's talk about B, it's the real thing. How do you deal with that? And so one of the questions to say, so let me just check in. This feels like we could talk about it, but is this really the big challenge here for you? So you're inviting them to be more courageous, if you like, and step into the real challenge. Sometimes I'll go, yeah, you got me. We should talk about that other thing. Sometimes they're like, no, I really like A. Let's talk about A. And then you have another choice if you want to. You go, look, I might be wrong, but let me put something on the table. I think there might be something juicy around topic B. Would it be useful for us to talk about that at all? Now, how I did that really matters. I did it in a way that puts what I think the real thing is on the table. So in some ways, it might give them permission to talk about the thing that they've never found a way of bringing into the conversation. So the option's there for them. And if they don't want to talk about it, we can both back away from that without losing face. So notice how I did it. Okay, look, I might be wrong. Just a wild guess. But let me just try something out here. And if I'm wrong, we don't have to take on this one at all, but this topic here, topic B, is there something here that we should look at, do you think? But it feels to me that there might be something interesting. So we can both walk away from that without it being a loss of faith. I'm not committed to it, they're not committed to it. But I'm opening the door for them going, hey, do you want it? Do you want to be brave? Do you want to take this on? Does that make sense? Yeah, perfect. So that's the first three foggifiers. The fourth 4 through 7 is about helping you get to the point fast. Proliferation of challenges. So you know what this looks like and feels like. Somebody comes into your office and goes, oh, Michael, I'm so excited to have our coaching session. So there's this thing with Project A, because that's going off the rails. It's an absolute nightmare, and honestly, working with Peter, that's really challenging at the moment because he's rebellious and he doesn't take authority very well. And then there's this thing about going on at home, and that's a bit of a mess as well. And actually Project C, I don't understand money, so the finances are terrible there. And there's this kind of popcorn thing happening where you're like, oh my God, I'm getting overwhelmed by what's going on here. And honestly, here's what most of us do. We go, here's the topic I know most about that I can solve fastest and most easily. Why don't we start there? Because I'm going to help you with that fast. But of course, what we're trying to be is be lazy. What we're trying to be is get them to do the work. So what's the question that stops you solving it for them, but perhaps puts it back to them? Exactly. Which of these is most important? These are all great, they're all juicy. If we had to start somewhere, where would we start? Which one of these feels most important for us to pick now? If we could only solve one of these right now, which one should we start with? These are all variations on the same piece, which is if you don't just pick one, what would that be? And the very act of them trying to figure out where to start is in itself a powerful coaching moment. Because now you are making them do the thinking. And honestly, if they get it right or they get it wrong, that's kind of okay. Let's say they get it right, like, exactly, let's go there. That feels perfect. If they get it wrong, you get to go back to that other one about avoiding the real issue. Where, yeah, we could certainly do that. Let's explore it a bit. But let me just say, from my experience, there might be something interesting here about topic B. Would it be useful for us to look at that more? So these can work, but so much of the time you're trying to give them the choice. So that's number 4. Number 5 is this one, abstractions and generalizations. So here's what it sounds like. Somebody walks into your office and they go, you know, it's really challenging being a CFO these days. I mean, with the shifting markets and with Donald Trump, it's confusing things, China, and of course the foreign rate exchange and this and that. And it's quite an interesting conversation quite often because it's kind of a big picture, we're doing this, we're doing that, here's the big trend. And you're like, okay, this is juicy. But part of you is thinking, what are we actually talking about? You know, what's the issue here that we really need to tackle? Or is this kind of more of a Harvard Business Review executive summary of the challenges of the moment? You know, get into the juiciness. So the clues here is they're talking big picture. They're often talking about we and us and they, rather than having some specificity. But you want to go from this thing down to a more personal conversation about the person in front of you. So what's the question you could ask here?
What's the real challenge here for you?
Yeah, exactly. You got it. And that for you is where the magic happens. Yeah, I get about the trends about Donald Trump and foreign exchange and this, but out of all, what's the real challenge here for you? Oh, well, actually, my deputy is a nightmare, and she's not very good at doing this, that, and the other. Oh, it's a completely different topic then. Okay, fantastic. So what's the real challenge here for you? This, for me, if you had to pick just one question with blue card coaching, it's probably this one. What's the real challenge here for you? Coaching the ghost. So, Chloe comes into my office and goes, I'm so tired of working with Peter. I go, so tell me more about Peter. I mean, I know he's a nightmare, but what's her name? We go, Peter. Oh, Peter, nightmare. Oh, awful. I know, Peter. We have this long conversation about Peter. And in the end, it hasn't been a very effective conversation because Peter's not actually in the room. And actually, we don't want to be coaching Peter. We want to be coaching Chloe's challenge for Peter. So this coaching the ghost is when you're not coaching the person who's right there in conversation with you, but you're coaching a topic or you're coaching another person who's seen as the issue. So what's the question that shifts the focus from the ghost to the person in front of you? What do you think, Susan?
What's difficult here for you?
I like it. What's difficult here for you? It's a variation on what's the challenge here for you. It's like, yeah, I understand Peter, whatever, but what's difficult here for you? Can you feel how that completely changes what this conversation is going to be about? It just takes it back to the person in front of you. And that for you is such a powerful two-word add to almost any question. And then the very final one is called seduced by the story. So, you know this experience, because I'm sure you met people like this, the people who have that ability to circular breathe in your life. So they show up on the phone or in your office or whatever, and they go, oh, you go, so what's on your mind? And you go, oh, let me tell you, I mean, honestly, it's a nightmare. I mean, I'm up early, because I'm always up early, right? 5 o'clock in the morning, but you know, the twins are up, so I have to deal with the twins, so it's Tuesday, and Tuesdays are my day with the twins, and so I get them into the kitchen, and they're in the high chair, and it's fantastic, but we've just started feeding them Cheerios, and with Cheerios, I don't know if you know Cheerios, but these little bastards roll everywhere when they're on the floor, so that's why so I'm now chasing Cheerios all over the place, and you know, on the weekend we actually picked up this new handle from Walmart, this broom from Walmart, and actually it gave me blisters, which I was surprised by, because I think, isn't everything plastic these days? But anyway, so I felt that, I've got this new antiseptic cream, which I quite like, but it hasn't quite healed yet. But anyway, I got the kids sorted out, and then I started going into work, and you know, I'm borrowing the wife's car today, and that's fine, except that she's a real Bruce Springsteen fan. And you know, the whole thing about Bruce Springsteen, I haven't quite figured out the streaming piece. And of course, as all this is going on, you're doing your active listening piece, because you've been told active listening is a good thing. So you're like, you're nodding your head, you're looking interested, making small noises of encouragement. And honestly, part of you is going, what the hell is this about? Is there a point to this conversation? But you're trying to be coach-like, so you're like, oh, I've got to keep encouraging them because they're talking and I'm listening. Apparently that's good. So you're like, oh my God, this is 20 minutes and I don't know why we're here and I'm never going to get this 20 minutes back in my life. So how do you manage this? What's a question that can be helpful here? What's the bottom line? I love that, Desiree. Yeah, what's the bottom line here? And of course, actually what you've got to do is you've got to be able to interrupt them. Or you've got to stop the flow. Anybody got any good interruption techniques? I got one that I really like. Here's what I do. I go, I'm just going to stop you there. I'm just going to interrupt you. I'm just going to hold you. Just pause for a moment. And somehow telling them that you are currently interrupting them makes the interruption okay. Because you're kind of explaining the process to them. So if I'm live with them, not on the phone or something, I'll actually just stick out my hand. So I'm giving them a physical signal. I go, just let me stop you there for a moment. This sounds amazing, super fascinating. But just for the sake of my life and the fact that I want to leave here before midnight, get to the bottom line for me here. If you had to give it this in a single sentence, what would it be? Or you can use something else. So just get to the heart of it. What's the real challenge here for you? Out of all this stuff, what's the difficult thing that we should look at right now? So part of what this is about interrupt. You don't need all this detail. And get them to get to the point faster. I like what's the bottom line. People talk to me and go, I can't do that, that's too blunt. So it depends on the person and the context of the situation. Does that all make sense? Perfect. So those are the 7 foggifiers. You see the questions written down on the card there. The final step after you've asked the question and you get to what you think the real challenge is, what most of us do is we go, oh yes, that's it. We've just landed it, this is amazing. But they don't actually have the conversation with the person they're coaching. So the check it out piece is a simple process where you go, so that sounds like it might be the real challenge here for you. Does that feel like it's true for you? No, they go, yes, that's it. That is the challenge. Or they'll go, it's close, but it's not there yet. You go, okay, so what is the real challenge here for you? You just get to go a little further. But you just want to check it out rather than rushing on. So, here's what we're going to do. We're going to do a little 7 dwarfs moment. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to cluster your chairs up in groups of 5 for me, please. There are cups around, so if you could avoid knocking the cups over as best as possible, that would be great. But just cluster your chairs up in groups of 5. Here's what I would like you to do. I would like you to put your worksheet and your blue card just tucked into your folder for me, please. You might want to leave your notebook out though, so you just need the pen and the notebook, but the other stuff just put away for me. Lovely. Put the card away, put the worksheet away. Great. One of the surefire ways of winning a bet in a pub is to say, can you name the 7 dwarfs? People always start strong, and then by number 5 they're like, I don't know, snotty, farty, I can't remember. And there's always 1 or 2 that elude them. So too with the 7 foggifiers. So here's your challenge. In groups of 5, knowing that I literally taught this to you less than 3 minutes ago, your task is this. List the 7 foggifiers, list the question that helps unfoggify the foggifier. So no cheating, no looking at your cards or your notes, but you're the collective brain of 5 people who heard this stuff 5 minutes ago, trying to figure this out. 7 foggifiers, the questions that go with it, you've got 5 minutes to go as far as you can.
So if you ever thought to yourself, Michael says that advice doesn't work, but my advice really does work, here's a classic moment. I mean, I spent 10 minutes teaching you. I did a bunch of things, right? I gave you the visual hook to remember it by. I got you to write it down. I got you to figure out the question for yourself. I got you to and it happened like 10 minutes ago. And you're like, I can't remember anything he told me. Even though I used all sorts of good adult learning techniques to help the stuff stick. So if you think your advice is being remembered, it's not. It's just not. It goes in one ear and it goes out the other ear really fast. It's annoying, isn't it? It's frustrating. So let's just do a quick recap. Another adult learning trick here to go. So give me one foggifier you actually got. Yeah, overdeveloped sense of responsibility. So what that's called is the primacy effect, meaning people only remember the first thing and the last thing you told me. So they're remembering the first foggifier. The second one that's going to show up is seduced by the story, because that was the most recent thing you showed up. But so overdeveloped sense of responsibility, that need to jump in and fix things and solve things. What's a good question? How can I help? How can I help? Oh, the blunter version, what do you want from me? Yeah, very nice. So another foggifier over here. Right, avoid seduction, so not being seduced by the story. Avoid seduction is another thing, Peter, okay, but that's, we don't want to go into that right now. Okay, so being seduced by the story, that's when they're like blah, 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 and you think you need to find out more information because that's going to help you solve it. So partly you love the story because you're like, I'm getting all this juicy detail. Actually, of course, because you're not trying to solve their problem for them anymore, you don't actually need that much information and minutiae about what's going on. You just need them to figure out what the real challenge is. So how do you stop being seduced by the story?
What's the bottom line?
So what's the bottom line? Let me just stop you there. Let me hold you there for a moment. What's the bottom line here? Get to the point. Tell me what's really going on. Sum it all up in a single sentence for me. They're all variations on the same piece. What's the focus here?
Abstraction, generalization.
Perfect. So what is that?
That's when they're talking about high-level stuff, the they, the we, rather than
Perfect.
themselves.
Love it. So what's the question?
What's difficult here for you?
Beautiful. Nailed it. Fantastic. 3 down. What would you add?
The proliferation of challenges.
Proliferation of challenge, the popcorn slide, and this, and this, and this, and this, and this, and you're like, I'm overwhelmed. So how do you help with that? How do you manage that?
So which of these is most important?
Perfect. You get them to do the work. Wow, there's so much here. No wonder you're feeling stressed. So let me just, out of curiosity, where should we start? Which is most important? If we could only solve one, which would have the most impact? They're all variations on the same question. What you want them to do is to do the work. Back over here, what do you got? Okay, overcoming the temptation of the presenting challenge, right? That's when you think the first thing is the real thing.
Isn't that avoiding the real issue?
That is not avoiding the real issue. That's the third one. That's right. This is the second one, which is the light bulb one, which is the temptation of the opening challenge, where you're like, I see the light. So you don't want to be seduced by the opening challenge. What's the question? Best coaching question in the world, and what else? Fantastic. I love that. We're going to really use that. Got anything to, well, actually, let's go to the one you're talking about.
Avoiding the real issue.
Avoiding the real issue. That's when you're like, they're talking, this could be something, but in my gut, this is where you get to use your experience and your wisdom. I'm not sure this is the real thing we should be tackling. So what question would you ask?
I think it's what's the real challenge here for you?
Yeah, it's a variation on that. That would work, but it's more like, is this the most useful thing for us to look at? Is this the big issue for you right now?
Okay.
It's kind of, you're stepping out of the process a little bit going, this could be good, but let me just check with you. Is this the big thing for us to be working on right now? If they say yes, great. If they say no, great. No harm done, but it's just a kind of, let me just triangulate. Great, so you've got overdeveloped sense of responsibility, done. Temptation of opening challenge, done. Avoiding the real issue, done. Proliferation of challenges, done. Abstractions and generalizations, done. Seduced by the story, done. There's one that hasn't been picked up yet. Coaching the ghost, fantastic. Coaching the ghost. So what is coaching the ghost?
What's the difficulty for you?
Yeah, so what coaching the ghost looks like is when you get obsessed by the thing rather than the person in the room. Most often it's another person, but sometimes it's a situation. What's the real challenge here for you? If you can only remember 2 of these questions, it's the ones we practiced before the coffee break. What's the real challenge here for you? And what else? And what else? So what's the real challenge here for you? Perfect. So we're going to do a little practice coaching using these questions. So what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to pair up with somebody you haven't worked with yet this morning. So stand up, find a partner, find your place in the room, and then I'll tell you what happens next. You guys are a 3. Susan, I might ask you to step out of this so we get the pairing work. Perfect. So I'm going to have one of you go and work with Tracy. Perfect. That's great. And the 2 of you guys will work together. Perfect. Love it. So here's what's going to happen. You know what? We normally do this in triads, don't we? We do. So, just to confuse things, now that you're beautifully separated out in pairs, what I'd like you to do is this pair and this pair and this pair. I'd like you to break up and then go and attach yourself to some of these pairs so you're in a triad, and then I'll see what the hell's happening. Okay, sorry, I got confused. So stand up, go find yourself a pair. You need to work in 3s. You're working in 3s for this. Bring your chair with you. Perfect. So, lovely. Susan, I'll get you to jump in here, and you'll work as a pair, which will be fine. Perfect. So confusing. So that's perfect. So yeah, so actually, Susan, you pull out. You break up, you go over there, you go over here.
Nice time if you feel
Perfect. To all the facilitators who's watching this video, don't do it like this. Okay, that's a terrible way of doing it. You just so you're going to work in your groups of 3, and you're going to practice blue card coaching 3 times. So there's going to be a person who coaches. There's going to be a person who gets coached. You're going to draw on your the 3 Ps: the people, the projects, the people, the patterns. So you're going to find a real topic you'd like some coaching on. Can be the same one as you did before the break, but it can be a different one if you like. And you're going to have an observer. And we're going to do 6 minutes of coaching each, maybe a little less, maybe 5 minutes of coaching each, just to practice blue card coaching. But before I get you to do that, I'm actually going to role model a little bit of blue card coaching so you get to see it. And now I'm actually going to call on Susan to come and do a little coaching with me. So Susan, are you okay for us to do this?
Yes, I am.
He says rhetorically. Do you want to grab a seat? Sure. Let's do that.
Love to. I get to be lazy.
Perfect. So, Susan, I'm hoping this will be the ground rules of this. I'm going to be coaching you. I'd love you to. Oh, I didn't mean to do that. There we go. I'd love it to be about a real topic, something that's real for you. Mm-hmm. You get to control what you want to say and not say. So don't ever feel like you're going to be pushed into this is awkward, embarrassing, revealing in a way that you don't want. So stay safe, in other words. Yep. But I'd ask permission to maybe as we go through this to hit a pause button maybe once and just have a conversation with the group about what they're talking about. Is that okay?
Sure, yep.
Perfect. Any other questions for me? Love it. Perfect. So what's on your mind?
All right, I have it on my list.
Your 3P list, yeah?
It is redecorating the living room.
Okay,
Yeah,
nice.
It's a project.
I see that. I see the project. So what's the challenge here for you?
There's a lot of pieces here to it.
Okay, cool.
Okay, and you start with one thing. We just want a new couch.
Right.
And then we looked online. We actually, miraculously, my husband and I agreed on this couch. We like the color. We both want this blue couch.
Yeah.
It's also, it's going to serve as a bed too, like it's a sofa bed, and it has storage under it, which is
Nice.
fantastic.
So good. So useful.
But miraculous, we agreed on the color.
Perfect.
We love this one. Now, then we have to reorganize where all the furniture sits. What are we going to get rid of and what are we going to keep?
Yeah,
Wouldn't the walls look better with kind of a creamy yellow with this couch?
I totally get it.
And can we throw out furniture? Should we buy a property up north to put the extra furniture in?
So let me jump in because I feel like I'm getting swept into I don't know, like a TV show on interior decorating, and I feel your pain.
It just happened.
But what's the challenge here for you as you look at all the stuff going on?
I just want that blue couch.
Just want the blue couch.
Yeah.
Got it.
And I don't want my husband to want to procrastinate because the project looks too big and the dominoes are going and we've got to make
Right.
sure the place is empty to do the painting, and it's like the couch is only on sale for so long.
Perfect.
So,
So what I'm hearing so far is you want to get that blue couch before it disappears.
yes.
You don't want this to trigger something where your husband procrastinates and you're living in a state of chaos for however long.
Yeah.
What else?
I really like that color yellow.
Mm-hmm.
We haven't agreed on that yet. I'm kind of thinking I just want to get the couch and
Right.
the heck with the rest of the redecorating. I really just
Perfect.
want the couch.
So getting the couch,
And that'll be-
trying to get the yellow, trying to avoid the procrastination.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of things going on here.
Yeah.
If you had to point to one of them as the thing that feels most important right now, what do you think is the real challenge?
It's the couch that keeps coming back, at
Got
that
it.
price.
Yeah,
It's the priority.
Got
It's
it.
the priority. And everything else would be nice.
Yeah.
That isn't urgent.
So what's difficult for you about getting the couch?
It's convincing my husband that
Right.
now's the moment.
Right,
And that it doesn't have to be perfect, and everything else can just be sort of done one at a time. Like we could move some things
Got
just
it.
to get that there, and then just take it apart over time.
So we've kind of shifted from the vision you've got for the amazing house to going, okay, I've just got to convince Dave to act, and that it doesn't have to be perfect. Are those the two, acting and being okay with
Yeah,
non-perfect?
that's-
Are they two separate
yeah.
things or are they the same thing?
It's two separate things.
Two separate things.
Yeah.
Perfect. Let me hit pause for just a moment. What are you noticing so far in the way I'm coaching? What's working, what might not be working? Actually, let me ask you first, Susan. What, if anything, is working for you in this conversation?
I'm talking out loud,
Yeah,
right, which I haven't done about this topic, just came up, which is helping me process it and think out loud. So that's very helpful, and I'm feeling that, and I actually am not really hearing your questions. I'm feeling
get
that
that a
I'm
lot.
prioritizing. I'm not really listening to you. I feel like I'm prioritizing over here,
Right.
and I'm really getting to the couch. Like I'm really
Right.
getting to what this is.
What matters.
What's important.
perfect. What are you seeing? What am I doing? What are you noticing? What are you learning, Dan?
Just the how you distilled it from redecorating the living room
Yeah,
down to it actually being the conversation with Dave.
perfect. So it's really kind of getting, you can feel the funneling of it, can't you? Yeah. In fact, that's why I had this piece up here, which, we're seeing really nicely in Susan's conversation, what's the real challenge here for you, and what else, and what else? Okay, so what's the real challenge? Oh, it's the green one? Okay. So, what's the real challenge? Okay, what's the oh, it's this one? Okay, so what's the real challenge? Oh, so it's this one. So you're seeing that kind of shift and focus. We haven't veered wildly off the interior decorating piece, but it's become a bit more personal. It's become about the couch, and it's become about the relationship with the husband in managing the couch, rather than going, is yellow a good interior decorating color with a blue couch, right? So it's got that sort of focus to it. So that's lovely. What else are you noticing?
She's starting to go down the path of the ghost.
Yeah.
And you ask the question for you, like what's up for you?
Nice. What other fogifiers are you seeing have shown up? Because a few of them feel like they've shown up. So generalizations. What? Give me.
Going up north, maybe we should get a cottage when she was growing up.
Yeah. So generalizations and also proliferation of challenges. I'm like, oh my God, the traffic is terrible when you're trying to go up north and the cottage and mosquitoes this time of year. You're like, okay, we don't want that. All right. So proliferation. And I think you said seduced by the story. It felt a bit like that at the start, right? I felt a bit anxious, honestly. There's this kind of overwhelming stuff keep coming at me, and I'm like, okay, I'm getting into this decorating and 3-in-1, so practical for a sofa, a bed, and a sofa, and a storage unit. That's fantastic. I'm like, so all this minutiae, and I'm like, okay, rise above the detail. I don't need any of that. What other fogifiers are you seeing?
Avoiding the real issue.
Yeah. Do you feel like we've got to the real issue yet? Doesn't feel that way quite to me yet either, although it feels like we're circling in on it. It feels like we're getting closer. In my head, you're not hearing this obviously, I'm like, it could be something about, I've just got to act and get the sofa because that's what I need to do and live with the consequences. Or it's I've got to have a better conversation with the husband so that we know what's going to happen as part of that. I'm holding both of those, and there may be another possibility I haven't considered, but I'm trying to resist giving advice and solutions to that, because I've got tips on all of that. I just don't need to share them just yet. So let's go back. Thanks for the interruption. So you got it down to kind of two things. Mm-hmm. Does one of those feel like the real challenge or the thing that's most useful for us here?
The blue couch, or everything has to be perfect.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I know I really want the blue couch.
I hear that.
Did I mention that?
You mentioned the blue couch.
Okay.
I'm just wondering, let me put it on the table, I might be wrong.
Okay.
It feels like you've actually got clear on the blue couch.
Yeah. I like it.
It feels like the harder thing is the managing the husband and
Definitely.
the implications of that.
Definitely. Yeah. Yeah.
So would it be useful if we kind of dug into the real challenge with dealing with that conversation.
Okay.
And actually, I'm gonna stop us there.
Yeah.
But what did you notice I do in that last little bit? What's the fog of fire? Avoiding the real issue. Like I could see Susan tip one of two ways. So notice how I put it on the table. Maybe we look at the husband conversation in a way that I'm like, if I'm wrong, if she's like, I just want to buy the blue couch, we can have that conversation and deal with that. But as soon as I opened up that door, Susan was like, yeah, okay, let's get into that, because that feels like the thing. And we could just go a little deeper on this conversation. What's the real challenge here for you having this conversation? But we're not going to do that. We're going to stop that now. Perfect. Susan, thank you. That was great. Perfect.
Yeah.
Round of applause, please, for Susan. In each pair, in each group of three, there's a person A, a person B, and a person C. So person A, stick up your hand, please. Perfect. So the person to person A's right is going to start coaching first. Perfect. Person A is the observer. The other person's about to be coached. Okay, so let me tell you the rules of engagement. 5 minutes coaching, so not long. If you're the observer, here's your job. It is to observe. It's not to leap in halfway through with some helpful suggestions about how you can fix this entire coaching conversation. You're looking for two things as the observer. What did the coach do that really worked? Kind of what was their best moment? And where, if anywhere, did the conversation kind of go off the tracks? Okay, that's the two things you're looking for. Person about to be coached, just as Susan role modeled so generally for us, it's a real topic of conversation. A real topic of conversation. One of your 3 Ps. Make it real, because you're about to get some actually useful coaching here. Are you guys dealing with cold air? Do you want to move it all to get more comfortable? Okay, perfect. Coach. Here's your challenge. It's similar to what we did before the coffee break. You get to use the 7 questions on the back of the coaching card. That's it. Only 5 minutes, but you have to stay curious about what the real challenge is. I'm going to suggest that your opening question is, what's on your mind? And then if you want a tip from me, do what I did with Susan, go, so what's the real challenge here for you? But then you ask whatever you want, and what else is your friend? And the other questions are helpful as well there. 5 minutes. We will do a quick debrief after each round, okay? So we see how we're doing, and then we'll break for lunch. Any questions before we launch this? No, you're keen to do it, I know, I can feel it. We're going to wait for the team to pick their spot, because it's quite exciting. It's quite exciting for all of us. Where will they go? Perfect, I just want you guys to get comfortable. That's great. Love it. So, 5 minutes, your time starts now. What's on your mind? Leap over it, go. All right, perfect. Well played, everybody. As some of you have noticed, I'm actually kind of going around and listening in. I'm just listening to kind of go, what am I seeing as fog of fires? Maybe I can just tap the tiller a little bit to help out. And I'll keep doing that through the next 2 rounds. What I'd like you to do is have a quick conversation about how that 5-minute conversation went. So we're going to start off with the coach giving yourself feedback on how you think you did. What worked well, where did you get a bit lost perhaps? And then the other 2, feel free to jump in your observations. What worked, what didn't work, what are you learning from sticking to the get clear questions? Okay, so coach, start off giving yourself feedback, others jump in. You've got 3 minutes for this conversation in total. Take it away. All right, very nice. Before we move to the second round, what did you learn from the first time through? What did you notice? Yeah, Cheryl.
Oh, I learned so much from Robin because I got totally stuck. I wanted to start doing my own questions. And what she pointed out
out to me that in my head, I was thinking there's one issue. And she said, there were actually 3 issues.
Right.
And so she said, you started down the funnel and then there was a log jam.
Yeah.
And I couldn't get through the log jam, and
Yeah.
she was pointing out how, it was 3 things she was hearing, I was hearing 1. So brilliant.
Nice. What would you have done differently?
I would ask the question, if you had to choose one challenge to work on now, what would it be?
Perfect.
Yeah.
So part of this is tricky stuff because you're trying to be really present with the other person. You're trying to have the discipline to ask a few good questions and not rush into the advice. You're trying to worry about the welfare of the other person. Sometimes you're like so intense on like, I'm trying to be a really good coach that you kind of forget the other person's actually a bit of a human being as well, and you need to actually engage with them and kind of acknowledge them as a human being. So this is tricky stuff. What you saw me doing with Susan probably is harder than it looks, right? Because I've been doing it a long time. Plus, I designed this course to make me look good, right? So if I can't do it well, I'm just a terrible designer, right? So know that if you're feeling it difficult at the moment, that's just part of the process of getting better. So thanks for sharing that. What else did you learn first time through? Yeah, Chloe.
I found it hard to realize when they were saying the actual problem, because I don't have the experience to know what deeper might be going on.
Yeah.
And so I really was unsure whether we've gotten to the root of it or not.
Yeah.
And I was hesitant to ask the same question again because I was like, that's awkward and annoying and I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
But
So much good stuff going on there. That's perfect.
But it wasn't perceived that way, which was
Right.
encouraging, that it was seen as like,
Yeah.
it actually opened up new things and led to the root of the problem.
Beautiful. So that's a great insight, which is as you're in there going, oh my God, this is a disaster. I have lost control. I don't even know what this conversation's about. They're going, this is amazing coaching. I don't know how they're doing that. So that often happens. The anxiety you have is not the experience of the other person. The second piece I'd point to is the first thing you said, which is around, can I just keep asking the same question? You get that anxiety going, I've already said what's the real challenge here for you 3 times. Are they going to think that I've only got a vocabulary of 2 questions? Whereas actually what I want you to have is a vocabulary of 2 questions. Like just know that. I want you to have a few good questions that you just work and work and work until they stop working for you. But trust the repetition because they're not feeling the repetition like you. And then here's the key tip, and I love that Chloe pointed to this. When you get to the point of going, oh my God, I don't know whether I should do this or do that, should I check in or not check in? Now that is you not being lazy. Now that's you you've got your buttocks clenched and anxiety, you've got a bead of sweat trickling down the thing. And if you're working really hard, something's gone wrong. Remember, you want to be lazy here. Open, get them sweating. So if I'm not sure whether I've hit the aha moment, I go, have I hit the aha moment, Dan? Does this feel like it? Just get them to do the work for you. They'll tell you. Yeah, this is it. This is it. Or this isn't it yet. You're like, okay, so what is the real challenge? So get them to do the work for you. If you're trying to figure it out, just blurt it out and ask a question about it. Does that help?
Yeah.
Perfect. Really natural to go through all of that, so that's fantastic. Final comment before we get into the second round?
So just a question, because
Please.
you did it with Susan and we did it here. Should you take that time to paraphrase what you understand the problem being, to make sure that you are capturing what they consider the real challenge?
Nice.
Or is that being too active?
Love that you asked that question. So there's a school of training going, the way you show what a wonderful coach you are is you do active listening, meaning you repeat back everything you've ever said or ever heard. And I honestly think that's mostly annoying. Somebody's going, so I think what you're saying is this, and you're like, oh God, okay, I've got a 3-minute summary coming up of what I just said. I don't need that. And there is something really powerful in acknowledging what's just happened. So when somebody goes blah, 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 I'll often acknowledge it by saying something like, hey, sounds like there's a lot going on there. That's all I need to say. And they're like, yeah. And you go, so what's the real challenge? If you had to pick one of those, which one should we pick? So it's an art. There's no specific answer to that. Some acknowledgement. I think it's this, and it actually came up with Jenna in the back there as well. There's something about acknowledging their humanness is the more powerful act than acknowledging the details of what they've just told you. So in the conversation in the back, Jenna heard something, and it was personal and meaningful, and she was like, yeah, what else? And it was like, oh, okay, we're on to the next thing, that's what I told you to do, so that, I understand why you did that. But just a moment going, wow, okay, that's big, I get that. What else? You know, just acknowledges the person and their humanness and your presence with them without needing to get into the minutiae of repeating back everything you've just said. Because you don't need to remember everything they've just said. They're going to remember the important stuff because it's their life. Was that too rambly an answer? Did that make sense? Okay, perfect. Final comments before we move on to the second round? Okay, every role moves to the left. Does that make sense? Perfect. So, hands up if you're the coach this time through. Perfect. Hands up if you're the observer this time through. So you're looking for the best of it and where they got off track. And of course, if you're being coached, you're just bringing a real topic to it. Coaches. You've had somebody role model the first difficult time through, so you're going to be better this time through, which is great. Stick to the questions. Remember, it's a human being that you're coaching, so just stay present with that person. Do the best you can in asking the questions. Your 5 minutes starts now. Take it away. All right, very nice. I think some of you are already into the debriefing, which is great. Before you get into the debriefing, I meant to do this the first round. I need you to look at your two companions and go, you are awesome and you're doing great. Perfect. Same debrief process as before, which is, coach, I'd like you to start giving yourself feedback. What did you think worked well? Start with that. Celebrate what worked well, because I know you want to beat yourself up about what didn't work so well, so we'll just get to that. And then when you've celebrated what worked well and where you went off track a bit, hear from your companions. You'll have 3 or 4 minutes for this conversation in total. Take it away. Lovely. So let's jump into it. What did you learn second time through? Like, you're both getting better at it. You're getting more attuned to seeing the fog of fire. You're getting more attuned to kind of seeing the power of the questions. So what did you learn the second time through?
Same result. I think when sorry, I don't know your name, but you said,
Chloe,
yeah. When you said you kind of feel embarrassed, like asking the same thing. But like, I think it's that trusting of the process, even though it's not, let's say process, but I was the observer and watching the real issue come about, even though we kind of kept saying the same question. And I saw that aha moment with Desiree, and then in the same sense, when I was the coach being coached last time, I had that aha moment where you're thinking it's something else, and then all of a sudden it's like, maybe it is. And so that's twice.
Right.
So seeing it sort of validated for me that this does work.
Yeah.
Like, you have to just keep doing it. Like, don't try to make it your own. Just follow the process and it will come.
And sometimes, if I'm honest, it doesn't quite work.
Yeah.
But it does most of the time. You know, there's something to acknowledge that even when this doesn't work, it doesn't actually end that badly. It just kind of gets a bit confusing and messy. And everybody goes, what are we doing here? Why, what? And then you go, oh yeah, you're right, that's not really working. Okay, let me ask you just one last question. What is the real challenge here for you, right? But so often in 5 minutes or even a little less, you can see that dawning aha and you're trusting the process. I think it is a process. It's like, it's simple, but there's the basic principles are stay curious a bit longer, see how far they'll get, see if you can resist your advice monster a little bit longer, and it will pay off most of the time. So thanks for speaking to that. What else did you notice coming through the second time, if anything? Yeah, please.
So overall, I like the questioning, like, so it actually keeps my mind from wandering to solutions.
Yeah.
Or making assumptions, like the questions, just the continual questioning helps to
Keep a space open a little bit longer. Yeah.
Although it is hard to stay lazy, there was, when Chloe also spoke earlier, you do get a little antsy.
Yeah, totally.
As you said, your butt starts to clench.
Yeah.
Yeah, like where do I go from here? I feel like I'm getting stuck. So
Right.
it is hard to stay lazy.
I agree with that. Because you've had years of practice where you've been rewarded for leaping to the answer, getting into action. So you've got a nervous system that is highly trained to be twitchy around that. And then you add to that this is only one part of a 3-part series. So it's like, this is just trying to figure out what the challenge is. There's more to do here. So when you see the other parts of the process, that might help a little bit as well. But you're pointing to something that everybody's feeling in some way or another, which is this feels unnatural to take all this time to ask questions, even though it's a whole 4 to 5 minutes to stay curious. That's all I'm asking you to do right now. Final comment before we get to a third round. One thing that you've learned. Come on, somebody help me out here. I'm dying. Yeah, please, Fiona.
But I think it's the time piece.
Yeah.
So this is all very orchestrated with time. We even had more than 3 minutes to do this.
Yeah.
And I think most people within 3 minutes had something. So it just proves the point.
Yeah.
You need a half an hour of someone
Right.
berating you with questions.
Right.
Like, I don't know why my mother did that.
Right.
So I didn't ask.
Yeah.
Right. But so it just hits
Yeah.
balance. You just need a little time.
Perfect. Thank you. So you're now playing the role you haven't played. So I forgot to go around and listen in to the second round. So third time round, basically, if you're coaching, I pretty much expect you to be flawless at this stage. So I'll be listening in for a flawless demonstration of coaching. I think you know the rules of engagement here, which is around real coaching, sticking to the questions, watching the fog of fires, okay? So if you're coaching, this is your chance to not just go, what's the question, but going, am I noticing a fog of fire here? Am I being seduced? Is it a proliferation of challenges? Do I have an instinct that this might not be the real challenge? See if you can connect there, because then you're working on a more principle-based form of coaching. It's the next level, it's tricky. 5 minutes, your time starts now. What's on your mind? Very nice. Before we do the debrief, look to your 2 people and go, you are awesome and you're doing great. So speaking to the people, the facilitators who are watching the camera, what this is an example of when things are going well. Because you know, as a facilitator, things are going well when you ding your bells and nobody pays attention to you. Because it means that the learning has become more interesting than the teacher, and that's perfect. So let me ask you, what did you learn the third time through? I mean, stepping back, you've been all 3 roles now. What are you taking away from this blue card coaching? What's really getting in your bones?
I wasn't expecting. I mean, I was overwhelmed. Like, no, in a good way. Like, sometimes I think as coaches, you think you're out there to help, but you're in this spot, and oh wow, you gotta take a step back and breathe, and
Take a breath, yeah.
yeah.
So a different way of showing up to help?
Yeah.
Perfect, very nice. What else? Did you?
Yeah, actually, it's interesting that you just said what else, because we skipped over the what else at
Yeah.
certain periods of time because Jenna said everything really, so there was no need to go into that question.
Yeah.
And we sometimes just crafted a little bit of our own questions from the blue card. So
Okay.
like you mentioned anxiety before, so what's the biggest challenge with anxiety?
Nice.
And just
Okay.
like adding in specifics.
So riffing off that, very
yeah,
nice.
Exactly. So you don't have to go specifically off the cue card.
Right. Here's my recommendation, and the choice is yours entirely, but I would say the practice now is to stick to the questions as best you can on the blue card. so that when you riff off them, you have mastered them and you know why you're riffing off them and how it works. I mean, I'm delighted you did that. And I think there's this piece around deep practice, which is get really good at these few questions, and that actually makes your choices beyond them even clearer for you. And what else? I love that you skipped over it. When I'm on somebody who's a runaway train, and I'm like, oh, I just have to stand here. It's like awesome. They're doing all the work themselves. Sometimes I'll just try and acknowledge what I'm experiencing. I'll go something like, so Jenna, it feels like you know exactly what's going on, but just let me test. Is there anything else going on here for you? And you may go, no, just stop interrupting me. I'm on a roll here. Or you may go, well, actually, there's this one other thing. So you kind of acknowledge the truth of their emotional situation and still go, and what else? Because sometimes they can be seducing you with their story. Look, I know this in part because I am the slipperiest person to coach. Like when I'm being coached, I can make it sound like this is an amazing coaching conversation, and all I am doing is avoiding the real thing I don't want to be coaching about. I don't want to be talking about. So you just want to be a bit skeptical about what you're seeing in a gentle, supportive, I'm with you sort of way. Lovely. What else did you notice or learn? Yeah, Peter.
Something I noticed just now in our coaching conversation was proliferation of challenges doesn't have to look like platforms coming up. They can just be two.
Yeah.
But there's tremendous value in just choosing one.
Yes.
Coaching 10 minutes or less.
Yeah. That's right. That's it, right. Because the other one, if it's important, it'll be there for the next conversation. You know, it's not going to go away particularly, or maybe it will. But you can only chase one rabbit at a time. So we're close to lunch, like less than 5 minutes away from lunch, I'd say. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to get page 4 out. Page 4 of your worksheet. I'd like you to maybe even give this a little headline that says Blue Card Coaching. And I'd like you to write down at least 3 things you want to remember about Blue Card Coaching. It could just be your favorite question. It could be Peter's comment about, you know, proliferation of challenges can be just 2 challenges, but the power of picking one. It can be about the power, if I can just speak to you a little bit of what the conversation I had with Laura about, she nailed her conversation with Robin. They're not really clear, but she didn't check out at the end, hey, is this actually the real challenge here for you? So the power of checking it out, that can be a really powerful thing to do. You might want to capture the fog of fire that you get most easily distracted by. So the question was, what's a good point to check it out? I think this. I think when somebody kind of gets to what the real challenge is, you kind of feel it, right? It feels like they're kind of sticking the landing. There's a bit of an emotional shift or an energy shift. I would check it out then. Just like, wow, that felt like it might be there. Or if you feel lost, go, look, I'm feeling a bit lost, so let me check. Are we close to this being the real challenge, or is there more work to do? Yeah, so whenever I'm just not sure, or when I'm not sure where I am sure, that's when I check. So all the time, in other words. And when you're done, and when the people in your group are done, I want you to share with the people in your group your one key takeaway from Blue Card Coaching. So just debrief with your group one last time. What's the key takeaway from Blue Card Coaching for you? All right, perfect. So, we are so close to lunch. It is 12:20 at the moment. So we're going to take a 45-minute break for lunch. So that means we start at 5 minutes past 1. There's a nice lunch laid out there, sandwiches, salads, and the like. If you want to go for a walk and get out into sunshine and warmth and all of that, that's great. Here is the one action I need you to take over lunch. It's about our commitment to sustainability after you leave the workshop, because you know if you're in the world of training, everybody forgets everything as soon as they walk out the door. We have this approach which is summed up by this saying: drip irrigation beats the occasional flash flood. So how do we do drip irrigation? We have this process where for 108 days, you can receive 2 to 3 texts per week to help you remember and engage with some of the key content from the workshop. So what happens is this. I'm going to give you the key word now. It's great work, which is all one word, B-O-C. But I'll type this into the slide so it's up there. Great work, space, B-O-C. If you text that phrase to that number there, 204-819-4157, you should almost immediately get a text back going, hooray, welcome, this is awesome, see you on Monday. And then on Monday morning, Wednesday morning, and Friday afternoon, you'll get a little kind of text conversation. You know, it might say something like, hey, pick one question, pick blue card coaching. And then it will maybe offer a video for you to watch, a 2 to 3 minute video to kind of reinitiate the learning about the content. Friday is typically a question going, how did your week go? How are you doing with the coaching piece? But it's a way for us to keep top of mind for you, to keep nudging you about engaging in the content. So the choice is yours, of course, but if you'd like to be part of that, I'll type in the keyword for you there. I'll leave this up over lunch. And if you're going to be part of it, sign up for it over lunch. That will help us towards the end of the day. See you back here at, did I say 1:05? I did. Lunch is over there. Manuel is helping us out. Thank you, Manuel. Great morning. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. You're awesome. Thank you.